So, what advice I can give you on starting a martial art? There's tons of advice I can give you, but I'm going to try to stick to certain key points that I think are important. So, choosing the right school. There are a lot of great martial arts schools out there, you know what I mean? And especially even in my local area. A lot of great schools just down the street, you know what I mean? Karate schools or whatever. Go online, do your research, and do your research for a little while, and a little while means something different to every person, but don't just like go online and pick like the first two or three schools you see. It's got to be perfect for you. It's got to match your personality. The school services has to match your goals. A lot of times people choose the closest school to where they live. Totally wrong way to go about it. When I started training in Ninpo, I was traveling an hour and a half one way, 3 to 4 times a week, because I was looking for a great Ninpo school, and the closest great Ninpo school was an hour and a half away. There were other Ninpo schools that were closer, but they didn't fit the mold that I was looking for. So it shouldn't matter how far the school is. If the school matches you and what you're looking for, it shouldn't matter. Make sure you speak to the owner or head instructor, because sometimes you want to speak to the head instructor, because sometimes the owner of the school doesn't teach anymore. So whoever is leading the classes that you're going to be taking, make sure you talk to them. Ask them what their qualifications are. Have them show you their certificates, their teaching licenses. A lot of people don't know this, but there is really no governing body on opening a martial arts school. Basically, anyone can. Even if you didn't know anything about martial arts, you can go online or register with the state, get a business license to teach martial arts, or open a school and have no qualifications whatsoever. That's scary. Here at Ninja Abingdon, especially myself, I'm certified from a grandmaster, ninja grandmaster, samurai grandmaster from Japan. I have all of my teaching licenses, all of my documents with me at all times at the school. So if somebody wanted to see them, I'd be more than happy to show them. That's one of the things you should be looking for when you go to a martial arts school, and you're doing your research and you're thinking about joining. I've heard of horror stories where people didn't even have a real black belt. You can buy a black belt online for $5. They're cheap, but to have a real teaching license and real black belt certification from a grandmaster is priceless. Make sure you take an intro class and try. Some martial arts schools will only allow you like 15 minutes to a half hour for an intro class, which is fine. See if you can negotiate if the class that you're going to be taking is about an hour long. See if you can negotiate, hey, I really want to take the full class before I sign up. That way you can really get a feel for what you're going to be doing like the whole time. So take an intro class. Don't just come in and watch and be like, oh, that looks cool, and then sign up. No, make sure you're going to love what you're doing in class. And ask the head instructor or the instructor teaching the class, is this a normal class? Do you guys change it up, or will this be like kind of routine? I personally like my classes changed up so people don't get bored, but some schools do it differently. To each their own, basically. Find out if there are any hidden fees. And I don't mean hidden, I don't like to use the word hidden in a bad way, because you have your monthly membership, but there can be other fees. Like here at Ninja Abingdon, we have testing fees. There are equipment fees. So make sure that school lets you know, or make sure you find out if that school has any equipment requirements that you need to purchase, or what they charge for tests. Some schools charge more than others, and so I've heard of black belt tests going for $1,000. You know what I mean? Make sure that's something. If you want to get a black belt, make sure that's something that you can afford at that school. We don't charge that here, so but like I said, I've heard of people charging $1,000 for black belt tests, and like I said, every school does it differently, so I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. As far as like the monthly fee, price shouldn't matter. Learning how to defend yourself from a life and death situation is priceless. What price would you put on your life? Is basically the question you have to ask yourself. Some people think I'm expensive, but I encourage them to call around the area at the other schools in the area, and I'm pretty competitive in my pricing. I'm not the cheapest in my area, and I'm not the most expensive in my area. I'm not trying to be the cheapest, and I'm not trying to be the most expensive. If you're looking at a martial arts school and you're going to make your decision just on price alone, and you want the cheapest school out there, you're totally going about it the wrong way. Like I said, it's how much is your life worth to you? I don't particularly want students training at my school that want to pay the least. I want good quality students that know the value of what I'm teaching them. I'm teaching them to learn how to defend themselves on any given time of day, and 7 days a week, 24/7. So that's priceless. And being the fact that we teach traditional martial arts, especially Ninpo, that's priceless in itself. You're learning ways that ninja used to train back in ancient Japan. Like, who can say that? Who can say that I am training like the ninja were training back then? It's and the training obviously was a lot different back then. It was a lot harsher, but still, the information that you're receiving is completely priceless, and that's the type of student I would want at my school. Someone who knows the value of what they're getting. Don't make excuses of if you're interested in starting a martial art. I hear excuses all the time, like, oh, like I'll start, when things, die down, in my life, I'm too busy right now. Oh, let me tell you something. I own the school. I teach at the school. I still train myself. I own another business, and I have a lot of things going on in my life, and I still find time to train. When there's a will, there's a way. Stop making excuses. I hear all the time, oh, I can't afford it. And usually, but not all the time, usually those are the same people that are going out every weekend and spending their money on nonsense like drugs, alcohol, things like that. Don't get me wrong, I love a beer or two myself, but when you're wasting hundreds of dollars every weekend to go party, you're pretty much, just killing your liver. And if you want to start a martial art, use that money that you're wasting to better yourself, better your body. And I'm going to keep saying this, stop making excuses. If you're not going to start now, you're never going to start. Or you're going to start 3 or 4 years down the road, and you're going to wish that you started, 5 years prior. People need to start putting their foot down in today's society and just do it. If you really want to do it, put your mind to it and it'll get done. The law of inertia really works. If you signed up at a martial arts school and you're training there, make sure you take it seriously. Don't just go in there and make it especially if you're learning true self-defense, don't just go in there and make it a social gathering or a hangout spot. You're paying good money for good training at a good school, right? So take it seriously. In my school, students are allowed to bring a notebook, and I tell my students all the time. Some of them, not all of them, most of them do listen. But hey, bring a notebook. You should be taking notes. You should be building your own self-defense. We call them densho. it's a manual, with notes on techniques and stuff like that, so you can, train at home. A lot of times people think, oh, you know, 2 to 4 hours of training per week, is enough. I'm learning how to defend myself, and they're super confident. That's great. People are supposed to be confident, but it's not enough. Training 2 hours a week or twice a week is not enough. Take it seriously. Take notes. Train at home. Train with a buddy. Connect with a classmate and set up training meetings. Even if you can't train at your house, go outdoors and train. Take it seriously. What you put into a martial art is what you get out of it. And I tell my students that all the time. And I still have the ones that come to me and are wondering why they're struggling so much, with a certain technique or a certain belt level or whatever. And usually those are the ones that are not putting in the work outside of these four walls. You have to evaluate your priorities. Take it seriously. Paying good money, take it seriously. Make sure when you start up at your school that you have good etiquette. That is super important, especially in a traditional martial arts school like ours. Make sure you have good etiquette. Make sure you say hi sensei, no sensei, or yes sir, no ma'am. Respect the person that is training you, because that person has been forging their spirit for however long, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. They've been there where you've been.